Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll start with our Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagvat Sevaya Bhagvat Bhaktir Bhavatir Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagvat Sevaya Bhaktir Uttamam Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pashachadeshatarane. So we are resuming our discussion from Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse 31. So just to do a quick recap, that we had previously discussed about the visit of Mahatma Vidur to Hastinapur. So the chapter had started with a brief description in a few verses about the glories of Maharaj Yudhishthir, that how he was ruling piously and how the people were happy and everything was in accordance to the codes of the scriptures. And then Mahatma Vidur comes. So the rest of the verses, they talk about or the rest of the verses till this point, they talk about the welcome to Mahatma Vidur as a Vaishnava and as a family elder and as a guest. So everybody greeted him and he greeted them back with a lot of love and affection. And then after that is the set of instructions given in the form of a conversation that were given by Vidur to his brother Dhritarashtra. And the essence of that conversation was that he conveys to Dhritarashtra that that he is fallible, life is not eternal, and in order to preserve the little life that he has left, he is compromising on so many fronts. And he speaks harshly and directly to him that how he is compromising by living in the house of one that he had tried to kill, living in the house of Bhim, living like a dog. And he also then preaches to him about what he should do. So the concluding remarks were that Vidur had recommended Dhritarashtra. He said, immediately head north and cut your these bonds of affection with your family, with this place, and become renounced. So that was the end of that conversation. And the conversation now, the set of verses now follow that conversation. So Sutta Goswami then relates that during the middle of the night, Dhritarashtra, heeding to the instructions of Vidur, he leaves his house, and his chaste wife Gandhari also accompanies him. So the night is now gone, and now it's morning time. So the focus now turns to Maharaj Yudhishthir. So we will now resume our discussion from verse 31. Ajata shattu krita matir hutagnir vipranatvattilago bhumi rukmaha graham pravista guru vandanaya na chapshat pitrau sobalim cha. Maharaj Yudhishthir, whose enemy was never born, performed his daily morning duties by praying, offering fire sacrifice to the sun god, and offering obeisances, grains, cows, land, and gold to the Brahmanas. He then entered the palace to pay respects to the elderly. However, he could not find his uncle or aunt, the daughter of King Subal. So, this verse gives us, to some extent, a glimpse of uh, what are the duties as per the Varnashram Dharma that are followed by a Grahastha. So, so in the morning, what did he first do? He said it was Krita Maitra. So Krita Maitra refers to Sandhya Vandanam, or the worship of the Devas. And then he offered oblations to Hutagni. Hutagni is the fire of Yajna. And after that, he offered, I'm sorry, he offered oblations, not obeisance. He offered oblations to Hutagni. And then he offered obeisances to Vipranatva, to the Brahmanas, and gave them in charity. So what did they give him? What did Maharaj Yudhishthira give in charity? Til go bhumi rukmaha. So til is grains, go is cows, bhumi is land, and rukma is gold. And the mood in which he gave it is with generosity and with respect. So in a mode of goodness. So following this, Maharaj Yudhishthira, he entered into the palace of the elders to offer them Guru Vandanaya. So the elders are considered to be like gurus, since they guide by word and they lead by example. So Vandanaya actually means prayers. So in a prayerful mood, he greeted the elders. So this is the what is considered to be the routine activities in Grahastha ashram. That the worship in the morning, the performing of the Agnihotra, the giving in charity to the Brahmans, taking the blessings of the elders. So this is what is called Nitya Karma of the Varnashram Dharma for the Grahasthas. Then Prabhupada in the purport, he contrasts this with the more contemporary situation. So he says that modern householders are practiced to different modes of life, namely to rise late and then take bed tea without any sort of cleanliness, and without any purificatory practices as mentioned above. The household children are taken to practice what the parents practice, and therefore the whole generation glides towards hell. Nothing good can be expected from them unless they associate with sadhus. Like Dhritarashtra, the materialistic person may take lessons from a sadhu like Vidur and thus be cleansed of the effects of the modern life. So Srila Prabhupada's mood is not that of condemnation, but of rectification. So he does not condemn it and walk away from there, but he says that this is how the modern day Grahasthas are living, that they get up in the morning, drink bed tea without having taken a bath or performed any other purificatory activities. And as they practice, the next generation follows. So the cycle continues. But then Prabhupada says that this can be rectified. That just like the Dhritarashtra is being rectified by taking lessons from Vidur, similarly, the modern day grahasthas can also be rectified by taking instructions from sadhus. So what happens next? So Maharaj Yudhishthira has performed his morning duties. He has entered into the palace, and then na chapshyat pitro saubilam cha, that he could not find his uncles or aunt, the daughter of King Subal. So pitram is father, but in plural, which indicates that he could not find either Dhritarashtra or Vidur. And then Saubalimcha indicates that neither could he find the daughter of King Subal, which is Gandhari. The cha indicates also that not only was he not able to find them, but he did not know about their activities. So the other part is implicit, but it basically intends that he also could not find them, which means that he did not see them, but not did he know about what happened to them. In his commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Sutta uses the word pravistha. So pravistha is used or generally used when entering a funeral pyre. And he mentioned that earlier on, when Sutta spoke about charity being given by Maharaj Yudhishthir, he says Tilago Bhumi Rukmaha. So til means grain, but til also means sesame. So he says typically sesame is given in Pindadan to the ancestors who have departed. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Sutta Goswami is kind of laying down in a subtle way that the premonition that Maharaj Yudhishthir is experiencing, that he will not see Dhritarashtra again. Next verse, 32. Tatra sanjayanam asinam paprachodvignamanasaha gaval ganekva nastato vridohinascha netrayaha. Maharaj Yudhishthir, full of anxiety, turned to Sanjay, who was sitting there, and said, "O Sanjay, where is our uncle who is old and blind?" So in the previous verse, it said that he did not see Vidur, he did not see Gandhari, and he did not see Dhritarashtra. But in this verse, we see that he is only inquiring about Dhritarashtra. And the reason is because he qualifies saying that Vriddha Netrahina, that of all the three, the most vulnerable is Dhritarashtra. Vriddha means being old, and Netrahina means blind. So that is the nature of compassion, that it is first offered to the people who are most vulnerable. So Yudhishthir, being a sadhu and a naturally compassionate person, his first attention goes to Dhritarashtra. That he is old. Now Gandhari is also old, but she is not blind. So he says he's old and he's blind. Do you know where he has gone? Next verse. Amba chahata putrata pitruvya kwagata suhurt apimaya krita pragye hata bandhu cha bharyaya asham samanaha samalam gangayam dukhito patat. Where is my well-wisher, Uncle Vidur, and mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her sons' demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very grateful. I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously, and along with his wife, drown himself in the Ganges. So Srila Prabhupada, he describes the mood of Maharaj Yudhishthir as that of a pious person. And Prabhupada comments in the purport that as a pious man, Maharaj Yudhishthir took into account all his unavoidable misdeeds. And he never thought of the misdeeds of his uncle and company. Dhritarashtra had suffered the effects of his own misdeeds by the will of the Lord. But Maharaj Yudhishthir was thinking only of his own unavoidable misdeeds. That is the nature of a good man, a devotee of the Lord. A devotee never finds fault with others, but tries to find his own and thus rectify them as far as possible. So previously we had seen that there were so many misdeeds that Dhritarashtra had done against Maharaj Yudhishthir. And the activities that Maharaj Yudhishthir mentions in this verse, they're factual. But Srila Prabhupada, he repeats twice. He says unavoidable misdeeds. So why were they unavoidable? Because in the course of the execution of his dharma, they were unavoidable. And in the course of fulfilling the desires of Krishna, they were unavoidable. But still, Maharaj Yudhishthir, being a pious person, and Prabhupada says a devotee, he first looks into himself. And he is, so the nature of a devotee is that he is soft on others and hard on himself. And the nature of a materialistic person is that he is soft on himself and hard on others. So we see Maharaj Yudhishthir display that quality. So this verse, this word asamshayamana, which translates to doubtful, when applied to Dhritarashtra or the activities of Dhritarashtra, it gives two possible meanings. So one possible meaning is that Yudhishthir is saying that, and so this is Yudhishthir speculating on what Dhritarashtra may have been thinking. So he said Dhritarashtra may have been thinking that, why should I live when Yudhishthir did not even leave one of my sons alive? Another possible understanding of asamshamana is that Dhritarashtra may be thinking, let Yudhishthir also have the sins of killing me. So both these thoughts are prevailing in the mind of Yudhishthir when he is fearing that Dhritarashtra has committed suicide by drowning himself in the Ganges. So Yudhishthir was witness to the discussion between Vidur and Dhritarashtra. And even though Vidur had preached to Dhritarashtra about renunciation, but at this point Yudhishthir is focusing more on the early part of the discussion, when Vidur was driving home the fact that he's living in the house of one who has killed your sons. He's talking about Bhima, but basically the Pandavas, and you're living in the house of one that you yourself have tried to have always been inimical to. So because Yudhishthir is focusing on that discussion, he is at this point extrapolating that because Dhritarashtra was reminded by Vidur that I was responsible for the death of his son, so Dhritarashtra is reacting by saying that what is the point in me living when all my sons are dead? So he goes to the Ganges and commits suicide, or he is thinking that Yudhishthira has already committed so many sinful activities by killing my son. Let more sinful activities accrue to him by being responsible for my death also. So this fearfulness is actually a good thing. The fearfulness in Yudhishthir is actually a good thing, because it protects one from even the thought of committing sinful activities. So now it is unfounded, but yet that's the nature that one should try and cultivate in the material world, because if not, Srila Prabhupada would say that we should always be very afraid of the material energy, because the moment we become complacent, then the material energy will sneak in, and under that influence everything is possible. So we see Yudhishthir here, um, in an implicit way, is displaying all the good qualities of a devotee. Next verse, 34. पितार्युप्रते पाण्डौ सर्वानः सूर्दान् शिशून् रक्षतां व्यसन्तः पितृवयो क्वागताव्यः. When my father Pandu fell down and we were all small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well-wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here? So previously, Yudhishthir, just 1 minute. So previously, Yudhishthir, he had condemned himself as being ungrateful. So he had said, "Maya krata pragya." Now in this verse, he expands on why did I say that I am ungrateful. So he gives the reasons that when they were children, they lost their father, Pandu, and at that time, Dhritarashtra was the one who took them in and he protected them. He was also there to nurture them by making all arrangements for them. So it was Dhritarashtra who had them educated by Drona. It was Dhritarashtra who gave protection to Kunti Devi. So Maharaj Yudhishthir is thinking that, and then he's also thinking that what did I do in return? So in return, I snatched his kingdom away from him and I killed his 100 sons and all his grandsons. So he says Bandhu Hata. So Bandhu means not only did I kill his sons, not only did I kill his grandsons, but I also killed his friends and family. So he's saying that this is how ungrateful I am. So Maharaj Yudhishthir he says Surdaha. So Surdaha is well-wishers in plural to indicate that he's talking about both Dhritarashtra and Vidur. So in the previous verse, he had used the word Suhurt as an adjective, which meant that he was applying it to Vidur only. Now he is remembering the kindness of Dhritarashtra also, and that is why he considers himself as ungrateful. Now again, Dhritarashtra, as we know, was also the cause of all kind of calamities. So in verse 8 of the chapter, Vidur had briefly talked about it. So we had said that of the 6 kind of attacks, all 6 of them had been done by Dhritarashtra or condoned against the Pandav. But this verse also brings forth the very difficult position of Dhritarashtra, because whatever Yudhishthir is saying in this verse is also true, that he also took them in as children. He could have killed them then, but he did not. He also made sure that they had the best of education. He could have had Drona just teach the Kauravas and not the Pandavas. But Dhritarashtra enthusiastically he supported the education of the Pandavas. And later on also we see Dhritarashtra intervening. So specifically at the time of Draupadi Chiraran, then at that point Dhritarashtra, he intervenes at that time, and he pacifies the Pandavas. So actually at that time he returns everything. So if you read the Mahabharata, that Yudhishthir had lost everything before he had put Draupadi up. And then Dhritarashtra came back and he returned everything to the Pandavas. But then they were again called back for a second round of gambling, which is when they lost everything again. So, so the indication over here is that it's giving us a glimpse into the mind of Dhritarashtra. That very much like us, like jivas, conditioned souls, he's not all good or all bad. He has his ambitions, which is forcing him to do things. He has greed and envy, but he also has the desires to help. He has also the desire to protect, the desire to nurture. And again, it brings forth the saintly quality of Yudhishthir, that he's only remembering all the good things that have been done to him by Dhritarashtra. Okay, next verse, 35. Sutta vacha kripya sneha vaikala atmeshwaram achikshataha. Sutta Goswami said, because of not properly reply to Maharaj Yudhishthir. So, if you remember, this is the conversation that is happening between Yudhishthir and Sanjay. So now, thinking that what will happen to these two without protection. And then he was disturbed, sneha vaikalvayat, because of the imminent sense of separation after a prolonged association with Dhritarashtra. So Vidur was not aware. Srila Prabhupada says, he, which is referring to Sanjay, studied the situation in his own way, because he did not know that the inner vision of Dhritarashtra had been awakened by Vidur, and then therefore he had left home in enthusiastic cheerfulness for a better life after departure from the dark well of home. Unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of home. So Srila Prabhupada is setting a context, because Sanjay is a great personality. And the point Srila Prabhupada is making, that if Sanjay was aware that Dhritarashtra had renounced, and not just renounced, but happily renounced, then he would not be displaying what he's displaying now, which is that he's crying, his mind is agitated. So he's fearing what Yudhishthir is fearing, that maybe Dhritarashtra has gone and taken his own life. So out of that sense of affection for Dhritarashtra and then agitation of separation, we see Sanjay in this mood of bewilderment. Okay, next verse, 36. Vrimjya Shunipanibyam Vasthabhyatmanamatmana Ajata Shatrum Pratyuche Prabhupada Vanusmaran. First, he slowly pacified his mind by intelligence, and wiping away his tears and thinking of the feet of his master Dhritarashtra, he began to reply to Maharaj Yudhishthir. So, so Vistabhya Atmanam Atmana. So this is the process of studying the mind with intelligence. So um, um, it's an uh, so as we know, Bhagavatam is also about teaching us. So while it is speaking to us about what Sanjay is doing, it is also telling us what we can do if our mind is agitated. So Sutta Goswami is talking about the process of studying the mind with intelligence. And the reason is because intelligence is higher than the mind. So in Bhagavad Gita 342, Krishna says that the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So, so Sanjay, understanding that if he acted on the platform of his mind, he will never be able to answer the questions of Maharaj Yudhishthir through the faculty of his intelligence. And the nature of the intelligence is that it is more philosophical than the mind. The mind is the resting place for the senses. So the mind simply reacts, but intelligence, it gives the mind the context. It adds sanity to the mind. So we see Sanjay doing that. And what else does he do? So he first pacifies his mind with his intelligence, then Prabhu Padav Anushmaran. Then he meditates on the lotus feet of his master. Well, not lotus feet, it's a Padav. So he meditates on the feet of his master. So this displays the conduct of a Shudra. So Sanjay is a Sutta, he's a Shudra, and instinctively the quality of a Shudra is to that when in a precarious situation is to immediately take shelter of the master. Now, by all accounts, Sanjay is an extraordinary person. He's a disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva gave him that benediction of being able to see. If you read the Mahabharata, then you'll see that Sanjay was kind of like a minister, a confidante. There were many times when Dhritarashtra would ask Sanjay for advice, and Sanjay would not give obsequious advice. He would speak boldly, he would speak clearly. He advised Dhritarashtra against mollycoddling Duryodhan. So now Dhritarashtra did not always follow his advice, but yet Dhritarashtra had a lot of regard for him. But yet we see here that in the Varnashram system, this is the mood of a Shudra, that regardless of how qualified, maybe regardless of how unqualified the master may be, but Prabhupada Anusmar, that the mood is to consider the feet of the master as a place of refuge. Okay, next verse. 37. Sanjay Vacha Nam Veda Vyavasitam Piturva Kulanandana Gandharyava Mahabhao Musita Asmi Mahatmabhi. Sanjay said, my dear descendant of the Kuru dynasty, I have no information of the determination of your two uncles and Gandhari. O king, I have been cheated by those great souls. So Sanjay has now been able to compose himself. He has wiped the tears from his eyes. He has pacified his mind with his intelligence. He has steadied himself by thinking about the feet, taking shelter of the feet of his master. And now he responds that it is right for you to question me because I am the personal assistant of Dhritarashtra and I'm constantly in his association. And it is right for you to question me because he does not do anything without consulting me. So that is the backdrop. But he says now things are different because despite all this, what I'm telling you is that he has not told me anything about his actions. He said, I have no information of the determination of your two uncles. So, uh, so uh, Sanjay uses the word that I have been cheated by these great souls, Musita. Now, the leaving of Dhritarashtra without telling Sanjay is not an act of cheating because he's not obligated to do so. For Sanjay, it would have been obligatory because Dhritarashtra is the master and Sanjay is the servant. So the master is free to do what he wants, but Sanjay uses the word cheating because of his because so he had the right to use that word because of his long record of service to Dhritarashtra. So because of the fact that Dhritarashtra always kept Sanjay by his side, because of the fact Dhritarashtra consulted Sanjay in everything, especially major life decisions, he may not have followed his recommendation, but he always consulted him because he told him. So he is saying that uh, uh, he did not tell me, he cheated me. At this point, when he was making a decision that was perhaps the most important decision in his life, he has he has uh, he has done so without without even informing me, let alone consulting me. So he considers it as mushita, that mushita asmi, that I have been cheated. But then he says, how does he compensate? So he does not want to call Dhritarashtra cheat. So what does he say? He says mushita asmi mahatmabhi. So he's saying this great person, mahatmabhi, that this I have been cheated by this great person. So what Sanjay is giving this indication is that the activity uh, that Dhritarashtra may have performed is one of greatness, or he is saying in the mood of a loyal servant that Dhritarashtra was always a great person. So there is no fault in him cheating. So while he says that uh, so while he says that I am chagrined by the fact that he went without leaving me, but he's a great person. So when I say that he cheated me, you please consider it in that context. So Prabhupada in the purport says that uh, one may be astonished that great personalities cheat, but then the cheating is justified if it is leading to a higher purpose. So Srila Prabhupada uses this as a premise for Devi Varnashram. So in the purport he says that satisfaction of the Lord is the criteria of one who is bona fide. And the highest perfection of life is to satisfy the Lord by one's occupational duty. That is the verdict of Gita 1846 and Bhagavatam 1 to 13. So sometimes there is a conflict between Varnashram and Devi Varnashram. And Srila Prabhupada, he uses this because sometimes people say that Devi Varnashram is in a way cheating. Like Prabhupada was giving sannyas to young men. And that is, at least in Karma Varnashram, that is not recommended. That the understanding is you go through the ashrams and then you, at an appropriate age, you take sannyas. And but in Devi Varnashram, it is justified. This kind of cheating is justified because it is for the satisfaction of the Lord. Now here Prabhupada said by one's occupational duty. So the example that I use is not very, it does not fit into this purport. I used it just to illustrate. But what Prabhupada over here is saying is that through the execution of your varnashram dharma, whatever that you can do to satisfy Krishna, even if it involves cheating, is justified. And the two verses that Prabhupada quotes is, this is from Gita 1846, where Krishna says that by the worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So this is making spiritual advancements by following the rules and regulations of your Varnashram Dharma. And a similar point is made in Bhagavatam. Prabhupada quotes that in the purport, Ata Pumbir Vijasreshta Varnashram Vibhagasha Swa Anustasya Dharmasya Samsadir Haritoshanam. So Prabhupada liked this phrase Haritoshanam a lot. He would use that. So Haritoshanam means that for the satisfaction of the Lord. Samsadir Haritoshanam. So Ata Pumbir Dvijat Shreshta. So O best of the twice born, that Varnashram Vibhagasha. That by following the divisions of the Varnashram, Swa Anustasya Dharmasya. That perfection can be achieved by discharging the duties, Samsadir Hari Toshanam. And in this way, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this cheating context, Srila Prabhupada says that there are historical examples where great personalities have cheated, but that cheating is glorious. So some of the examples, as Yudhishthir himself, when he spoke a lie about the death of Ashwathama to distract Dronacharya. And then Prabhupada talks about Sanatan Goswami, who cheated the warden of the prison by bribing the guard. And then Raghunath Goswami, who cheated the priest and left home to be with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some of the other cheatings that are there is the cheating of Lord Ram when he killed Vali, or Krishna lying to the gopis, or Vasudev breaking his vow to Kamsa when he took Krishna out, or even the Lord Vamandev cheating Daityaraj Bali. So Prabhupada says, to satisfy the Lord, anything is good, for it is in relation with the absolute truth. We also had the same opportunity to cheat the family members and leave home to engage in the service of Srimad Bhagavatam. Such cheating was necessary for a great cause, and there is no loss for any party in such transcendental fraud. So Prabhupada holds himself also, gives himself as an example that he left his family to take sannyas. And he says, he describes that as a form of cheating, but he says that it is justified for the same reason. He calls it a transcendental fraud. Okay, so I'll stop over here, see if there's any questions or comments. Okay, if not, then we can continue. Verse 38.
Atha jagama bhagwana narada sahatumburu pratyauthaya bhivadyatha sanuja bhayacharyan munim. While Sanjay was thus speaking, Sri Narad, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tumburu. Maharaj Yudhishthir and his brothers received him properly by getting up from their seats and offering obeisances. So Sutta Goswami, he continues to describe the scene that Yudhishthir had gone to the palace to give obeisances to the elders, did not find them. He became aggrieved, became concerned, turns to Sanjay, asks Sanjay. Sanjay responds by saying, I don't know, and he's lamenting. Now, what happens at that time? That at that time, everybody present begins to hear the vibrating strings of a veena and the sweet sounds of Krishna's transcendental names. And then all of a sudden, Narad Muni appears. As soon as Narad Muni appears, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his brothers, and everybody else immediately stood up to offer obeisances. So here again, we see the mood of receiving guests. Now, Narad Muni is special, but the mood is there. That everybody. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was an emperor of the world, but he, along with everybody else, immediately stood up to offer obeisances. So Sutta Goswami also alludes to the special status of Narad Muni by calling him Bhagwan. So in the verse, we see that he is saying that that Bhagwan Narad enters. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, Devrishi Narad is described herein as Bhagwan due to his being the most confidential devotee of the Lord. The Lord and his very confidential devotees are treated on the same level by those who are actually engaged in the loving service of the Lord. So Prabhupada makes this point to basically bring forth 2 points. One is that it is okay to call Narad Muni Bhagwan because of his close connection to Krishna. And the second point he makes is that this is done on a platform of knowledge, not from a platform of ignorance. So this is not somebody considering somebody exalted as the personality of Godhead. Or this is not, somebody just saying that you are Bhagwan because they don't know the position of Bhagwan. So the Goswami knows the position of Krishna, but he's justifying. So the Goswami addressing Narad Muni as Bhagwan because it's from a platform of knowledge. He understands that Narad Muni has a close, intimate association with Krishna, and thus it is justified to address him similarly. So this is the re-entry of Narad Muni after a long time. So when did we last see Narad Muni? We saw him in the 6th chapter when he was preaching to. So who was he preaching to at that time? So in the 6th chapter, Narad Muni was preaching to Srila Vyasadeva. And at the end of the 6th chapter, he disappears. So it says that the Narad Muni, vibrating the veena, left to wander at his free will. And now Narad Muni appears again, vibrating his veena, his tumburu. Next verse, 39. Yudhishthruvacha naham veda gatim pitror bhagwan kvagata vitaha ambavahata putrartha kvagata chatapisvini. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, O godly personality, I do not know where my 2 uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt who is grief-stricken by the loss of her sons. So here we see a little bit of a deviation that it is customary that when a guest comes, especially when an exalted guest comes, then you offer the person a seat, you offer the person pleasing words, and you offer the person water or something to eat. Yudhishthira does not do any of them. So he directly begins to inquire from Narad Muni. So so one can understand this as an exception, that the fact that Narad Muni appears at the exact time that the departure of Dhritarashtra has been discovered, and the fact that Yudhishthir himself is very much agitated. So those are mitigating factors. That because of these mitigating factors, the accepted etiquette and protocol may not be followed. So it's not a fault on the part of Maharaj Yudhishthir, because there are acceptable mitigating factors. So we see that Maharaj Yudhishthir also addresses Narad as Bhagwan, and same reasons by which Sutta Goswami was addressing him. In addition, Maharaj Yudhishthir is calling Narad Muni as Bhagwan to give this subtle message that because you are as good as God, you should be able to tell me where my uncles and Gandhari have gone. And then at a more subtle level, what Maharaj Yudhishthir is saying, that because you are as good as a personality of Godhead, you should be able to help me in my agitation at this point. And we will see that Narad Muni will do all three of them. He will he will tell them where. So he will tell them where their uncles and Gandhari have gone. He will pacify Maharaj Yudhishthir, and he will also give him the key to be not in that situation anymore. So the choice of the words that Yudhishthir uses over here, so they indicate that he more or less knows that his uncles have gone, or where they have gone. And at this point, he's looking for validation and consolation. So why does Yudhishthir know? Because the day before, when Vidur was preaching to Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthir was sitting over there. And Vidur was preaching very directly, saying that you leave your house and go. So next day when he comes and he sees Dhritarashtra gone, Vidur gone, so he is able to join the dots. So he knows that they have gone. So one may say that what about Gandhari? Vidur did not speak anything to Gandhari. So Maharaj Yudhishthir, he describes Gandhari as Tapaswini Hataputra Artha. So he's saying that my aunt is an ascetic. Tapaswini is one who is able to perform austerities. And Hatputra Artha. And she's aggrieved by the loss of her sons. So by the use of these words, he's indicating that Gandhari is also gone. So even though Vidur preached to Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra went because of the effect of the preaching, but Gandhari, she's not scared of going to the forest. She's an ascetic. And she was also aggrieved because of the loss of her sons. So the one thing that Maharaj Yudhishthira does not mention in relationship to Gandhari is the fact that she's a pativrata. So the first thing that would have come to one's mind is that she would have obviously gone with her husband. And the reason he doesn't mention is because it is obvious. So just like he does not want to restate the obvious, he considers it to be too apparent to even mention it. That so Gandhari was famous for her chastity. So because of that, he does not even mention it, but he mentions the other two reasons. So in his mind, he already knows. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says that an ascetic is never disturbed by all kinds of suffering, and that makes him strong and determined on the path of spiritual progress. Queen Gandhari is a typical example of an ascetic because of her marvelous character in many trying situations. She was an ideal woman as mother, wife, and ascetic. And in the history of the world, such character in a woman is rarely found. So Prabhupada in the purport, he's echoing this mood of admiration that Maharaj Yudhishthir has for Gandhari. Okay, next verse 40. कर्णधार इवापारे भगवान् पारदार्क्षः अथा बभासे भगवान् नारदो मुनि सत्तमः. You are like a captain of a ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. Thus addressed, the godly personality, Devarshi Narad, greatest of the philosopher devotees, began to speak. So Maharaj Yudhishthir, he ends his inquiry with following the protocol a little differently. So generally we see that when devotees they place a question, they first glorify. Like when Arjuna asked Krishna about where is the Brahmastra coming from. Before that, he spoke a few verses glorifying Krishna. And we see that generally when the Devas ask Krishna for help, they begin with glorification. So Yudhishthir had glorified Narad Muni by calling him, this is the third verse in which Narad Muni is also addressed as Bhagwan. So he glorified him as Bhagwan. Now he is glorifying him after putting the question. He is saying that you are like the captain of a ship in a great ocean. So the analogy is something that we had. So does anybody remember when this analogy was previously used? That you are the captain of a ship that can direct us to our destination.
In Bhagavatam or because
This is in Bhagavatam, actually in the first canto itself.
Prabhu, when Vyas glorifying Narada Muni, is that? Oh no, actually, I was thinking. Anyway, I'm getting confused now. Sorry about that.
So this is when. So this is right at the beginning of the first canto, first chapter, when the sages of Naimisharan are glorifying Sutta Goswami. So they're encouraging him to speak the Bhagavatam. So they say that we think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, so that we may accept you as the captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the ocean or cross the difficult ocean of Kali. So we have discussed that at great times, at great length, the metaphor that is the details that are conveyed by this metaphor. Like the ship without a captain is at the mercy of the waves of the ocean. Even if it is staying afloat, it can go anywhere. So that way, the captain is a very important person. Prabhupada talks about the role of a spiritual master as the captain of the ship. So in this verse, Narad Muni, in addition to be described as Bhagwan, he is also known as Muni Sattamaha. So the greatest amongst the devotee philosophers. So Sat is devotees and Muni is philosopher. So the reason that Sutta Goswami is calling Narad Muni as Muni Sattama is because now what Narad Muni will speak is philosophy. So Narad Muni is an ecstatic devotee that many people think that all that he does is that he sings and dances, which he does, but he is also one of the most philosophical person. And we will now see the more philosophical aspect of Narad Muni. So Prabhupada, he uses this opportunity to talk about the importance of the systematic study of scriptures in one's cultivation of bhakti. So he says that unless one has a sufficiently learned philosopher, no, I'm sorry, unless one has become a sufficiently learned philosopher by hearing the Vedanta philosophy from a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot be a learned philosopher devotee. One must be very faithful, learned, and renounced. Otherwise, one cannot be a pure devotee. A pure devotee of the Lord can give us direction towards the other end of nations. So this is one of the aspects of the metaphor, that the ocean is compared to the ocean of nations. And Prabhupada, he's stressing on the fact that one should understand the Vedanta philosophy. So the Vedanta philosophy appears where? In the Upanishads. The Vedanta philosophy appears in the Vedanta Sutras. So Vedanta means that where the Vedas end, or the summary of the Vedas. So effectively Prabhupada is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta. So he's encouraging, saying that one must understand the Bhagavatam, but he does not want us to become just jnanis. So Prabhupada says one must be faithful, learned, and renounced. So he brings forth the three essential ingredients in making spiritual advancement: bhakti, gyan, and vairagya. So faithful is bhakti, learned is gyan, and renounced is vairagya. And bhakti is essentially the root, whereas gyan and vairagya, they appear as the offsprings of bhakti. So bhakti is actually independent. Bhakti can exist without gyan and without vairagya. But the appearance of bhakti very closely followed by the appearance of gyan and vairagya. So they are so close that they are almost concomitant, that one can almost consider them to be happening at the same time. That out of a sense of bhakti or faith, one is inspired to read the scriptures, and by this faith and reading of the scriptures, one is inspired to renounce. And by this renunciation, one's faith grows, one's attraction to the scriptures grows, and then the cycle continues. So that's why Srila Prabhupada says that all three of them, bhakti, jnana, and vairagya, are important as one makes spiritual advancements. Okay, verse 41. So now Narad Muni will begin to speak. Naradvacha ma kanchan suchurajan yadishvara vasham jagat lokasapal yasye me vahanti balam ishituhu sa samyum makti bhutani sa eva vyunakti cha. Shri Narad said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is in the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is He only who brings them together and disperses them. So when we hear this verse spoken by Narad Muni, now we get an understanding that why is he called Muni Sattva. the greatest of the devotee philosophers. So in the course of the next 10 verses, from 41 to 50, Narad will preach irrefutable logic and bhakti at the same time. In fact, Narad Muni will preach all three things. He will preach renunciation, he will preach knowledge, and he will preach bhakti to Maharaj Yudhishthir. So here what Narad is saying, that he's bringing the perspective of the situation of the conditioned souls, and he will develop on this basically in order to develop material detachment in Maharaj Yudhishthir. So if you look at the flow of the 10 verses that Narad Muni will speak to Maharaj Yudhishthir, we will see that he will focus on these two aspects. He will speak about the need for renunciation, and he will speak about the need to surrender to Krishna. So he will speak about material detachment and spiritual attachment. So the fact that Maharaj Yudhishthira will get pacified is a side effect. And Narad Muni's response is a little contrary. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is lamenting, his Sanjay is crying, and you would expect Narad Muni to be compassionate and say, "Don't cry, Maharaj Yudhishthira. Don't blame yourself. Everything is okay." But we see Narad Muni opening up, almost chastising Maharaj Yudhishthira, because he does not want to give him false consolation. He wants to act from within. So Sridhar Swami, in commenting to this verse, he talks about the mood of Narad Muni, and he says that Narad Muni wants to rescue Maharaj Yudhishthira from grief by telling him of Dhritarashtra's fate, but he first wishes to preach to Yudhishthira about the identity of the actual controller. So Narad Muni starts by saying something that is simple. That's an axiomatic truth. So he says to Maharaj Yudhishthira, Ishvara Vasham Jagat Loka. And very, very, very similar to the first verse in Isopnisha, Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. He said, Ishvara Vasham Jagat Loka, which means that everybody in this Jagat, every person Loka, every person in this Jagat is Ishvara Vasam. And Vasam has two meanings. So Vasam means that under the control, Vash, under the control of the person. And Vasham also means that is a place of residence, Vas. So when the A becomes long, it becomes Vas. So like we say, Swargvasi, that the person is now living in Swarg. So Narad Muni is, and so he starts off with something that is very simple and straightforward, that Ishvara Vasham Jagat Loka. And because of that, he says that all living beings and the leaders worship Krishna to be well protected. Now, he's making this distinction between all living beings and their leaders. Now, the leaders are also living beings. So it's not that the leaders come from a different planet, but Narad Muni is making this distinction to show that regardless of whether the person is powerful or powerless, they all have the same conception, which is that in order to get protection, they take shelter of Krishna. So the message here is that everyone and anyone who desires to be protected worships Krishna. So an interesting point over here is that Krishna has so many powers. So we know that he has unlimited Shakti and he offers so many kinds of protections. So which aspect of Krishna's protection do these enlightened living beings worship? And Narad Muni is answering that question, that they're worshipping Krishna's power, that by which they are brought together and then they are dispersed. So, so when we look at statements like this, we have to understand the context in which Narad Muni is speaking. So this power of Krishna by which people come together and, or let me put that question to you, which aspect of Krishna's power is being discussed over here, by which people come together and then they disperse?
Karma.
Very good. So related to karma, destiny. So the power by which one is awarded the results of their activities. So why do people come together? Because they have some karmic balance to even out. Why do people get dispersed? Because of the same reason. Now, karma is one of Krishna's minor powers. When Krishna is dealing with non-devotees, at that point, this power is actually manifested. But Narad Muni is glorifying this because excuse me. But Narad Muni is glorifying this aspect of Krishna because that is his line of preaching for now. That he is first trying to establish Krishna's control on the material world. Krishna's control on the material world is through the law of karma. Krishna is not directly present over there. He's performing it through the actions and reactions of, or by giving the reactions to the actions of the people. That is the point Narad Muni is stressing. So that is why Narad Muni is glorifying that. He's glorifying that power of Krishna. So the reason that Narad Muni is doing it, now Narad Muni himself is a pure devotee. He's not averse to bhakti, but he wants to dispel this notion in Maharaj Yudhishthir that he is the protector of Dhritarashtra. So the point that he will make in the subsequent verses is that you and Dhritarashtra came together because of destiny. You have been separated because of destiny. You are not the protector of Dhritarashtra. He was protected by his own destiny. You cannot take care of Dhritarashtra, but it is only the actions of his own destiny that is taking care of Dhritarashtra. So by this, he is removing Maharaj's Yudhishthir's personal stake in the interaction with Dhritarashtra. More importantly, what he is doing is that he is instilling into Yudhishthir that do not consider yourself to be God. There is only one God, that is Krishna. He is the one who is bringing people together and he is the one who is separating them. So if you think that Dhritarashtra left because of you, then it is because you do not understand the position of Krishna. So this is the point that he will develop in the next set of 4 to 5 verses. So in the purport, so even though this verse is talking about the power of Krishna manifesting through the law of karma, Srila Prabhupada wants to use this opportunity to emphasize on the superiority of bhakti. So we see Prabhupada do that. If you look at Prabhupada's purport in the 6th chapter, where Krishna is glorifying Astanga Yoga, then Prabhupada in the purport is glorifying bhakti. So it's almost like there are two parallel currents. Krishna is saying that yogi is great. Prabhupada in the purport is saying, yeah, yogi is great, but actually it's a devotee who is great. A yogi who is a devotee who is great. Now, he's not trying to negate Krishna, of course, but he's trying to give us Krishna's message in the proper context. So once one Prabhupada's disciple, he went to him with the words and the translation, and then he was trying to point out to Srila Prabhupada that your Sanskrit and your word to word and your translation, they don't line up. So how do I understand this? And then Prabhupada said Prabhupada said, I'm not an ABC translator. So ABC translators are basically language translators that you translate from English to Spanish. Now there are software programs that can do that. You don't even have to have human intelligence. I was watching a conference by Microsoft, wherein they have developed this AI technology that as a person is speaking, that software is translating the person's speech into another language. So this was a person speaking in English, and her speech was being translated into Japanese in real time, and it was being shown in Japan. So that is ABC translation. So Prabhupada said that I'm not an ABC translator. When I translate it, I also add the relevant realizations. And then Prabhupada said, that is my expertise. So many times when we see that Srila Prabhupada's purport seems to be a little tangential to the verse, or the translation is a little bit does not follow ABC to the word to word, then this is something that we should keep in mind, that Prabhupada is actually telling us what is most beneficial for us. He did not translate the Bhagavatam for an academic reason. He did it for preaching purposes. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, ordinarily, one cannot change the course of one's due happiness and distress by plan. So this is the path of destiny. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangement of Kal or invincible. There is no use trying to counteract it. So far Prabhupada is following the line of reasoning given by Narad Muni about the inevitable effect of destiny. But now he adds his own expertise. Prabhupada says, the best thing therefore is that one should endeavor to achieve salvation. And this prerogative is given only to man because of his developed condition of mental activities and intelligence. Only for man are these different Vedic instructions for attainment of salvation during the human form of existence. One who misuses the opportunity of advanced intelligence is verily condemned and put into different types of miseries, either in this present life or in the future. That is the way Supreme Lord controls everybody. So then, and Srila Prabhupada then continues to make the point about the superiority of bhakti. So far, in this part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about karma, of Krishna acting through karma and the inevitability of one's destiny. Now Prabhupada says that Maharaj Dhritarashtra was placed in that position according to his past deeds. He had already suffered and enjoyed the benefits accrued to him in the past, but due to his good luck, somehow or other, he had a good younger brother Vidur, and by his instruction, he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. So this activity is not a natural consequence of the position that Dhritarashtra was in. So by the force of destiny, Dhritarashtra was leading a sinful life, and he should have gone to the lower planetary system. So if one went by the law of karma, then the ending of Dhritarashtra would have been different. So now Prabhupada is talking about the superiority of bhakti. Now in this case, he's talking about the bhakti of Vidur, not in Dhritarashtra. But the fact that he had a brother, he was a devotee, and the fact that the brother was compassionate on him, by the mercy of the devotee, the course of action of Dhritarashtra was completely changed, and he was able to achieve salvation. Okay, so this is this is the first verse that Narad Muni says, and he kind of encompasses various points. He gives Yudhishthir this point that you should not think that Dhritarashtra has gone because of you, but understand that it is Krishna who ultimately orchestrates all this through the law of karma. And now he will expand on this point in the next verse. So I should stop over here because we have 10 minutes and see if there is any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Two questions I have, Prabhuji. One is, what is the difference between karma and destiny? They are kind of appearing same. I was not very clear on the distinction. And the second question is, when we are asking senior Vaishnavas, or when we pray to Krishna, we glorify first and then we ask question, but most of the time it appears to me that we simply directly come to the question and ask. So how do we approach senior Vaishnavas when we ask?
Okay, so good, they're both good questions. So first question was, what's the difference between karma and destiny? So they're very, very similar. So often they're used interchangeable, but from a more strictly pedantic view, karma is activities that we do, and destiny is what those activities result in. So we do good things, our destiny becomes good. We do bad things, we are destined to suffer. So one is the action, and the second is the reaction. But conventionally, both of them are used interchangeably. Karma is used as a placeholder for destiny, and and destiny is used as a placeholder for karma. So the second question was, how to approach senior Vaishnavas when asking questions. So the general mood of appreciating the Vaishnavas is important, because one is that when you appreciate, this is genuine appreciation, when you appreciate a quality of a devotee, then that quality also begins to manifest in yourself. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes this point that when you criticize other person's faults, then you should know that you have that fault in you. That's why you're criticizing it, another person. And conversely, when you glorify the quality of other person, then that act of glorification will help you nourish that quality in yourself. So glorification is more for our benefit than for theirs. And we observe that also, that when sannyasis come, they give a class and people ask questions, then typically they start off by saying that, thank you very much for a wonderful class. I really benefited from it. I have one question. So this is the same mood. Now, again, this is more transactional. So it's not that, you have elaborate glorification. You can, if it is genuine, you can. but the general mood is that of natural gratitude, that they've taken time out, they have invested effort, and they've extended the compassion. So there's a natural sense of gratitude, and also the fact that they will be taking time out to answer your questions. So that sense of gratitude. Um, uh, some people, um, especially that I see that in Prabhupada disciples, that the glorification is more elaborate there. So they will also talk about that, I remember the time when you were doing this, and this was such a wonderful service that you were doing to Srila Prabhupada. I appreciated this very much. So I noticed that, like when I was in Mayapur a few times, around the time that the Sadhu Sangha is it's not called Sadhu Sangha. What is it called? So just before the GBC meeting, they have Kirtan Mela, and for the Kirtan Mela, they have I forget the name, but it's basically they have many seminars over there, and they invite many senior devotees who hold seminars on like the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Narsingadev, and the people giving the classes are Prabhupada disciples, the people in the assembly are Prabhupada disciples. And then I noticed that they have this genuine mood of appreciation there. So it also opens the heart of the speaker when they see this genuine connection. So they're inspired to give more. Okay. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Because sometimes when we share to the fellow devotees, we can easily share that, oh, that time Bhayahari Prabhu told this, it helped me, and when they ask or share. But when we directly speak, generally we directly jump on. At least it looks easy to me to say, start with the thank you, Prabhuji, and then ask, because it is brief and we don't make them wait. So,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. On the Haritoshanam, which this is for the satisfaction of Lord, the activities what we do. Basically, as we discussed, it is like the perfection which can be achieved by discharging our duties. So in this journey, is it not like a vice versa? Like we might end up in not seeing or in offenses as well, unknowingly doing some offenses, whether it is for the fellow devotees or any seniors, and how to address that.
So let me see if I understand your question. So you're talking about that the Samsadir Haritoshanam, that activities are performed for the pleasure of
Krishna. Yeah.
And then, so I think your question is that if you're performing activities for the pleasure of Krishna, is it possible that you might inadvertently displease somebody?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, true.
Okay, so it's a good question. So Srila Prabhupada, he kind of addresses that in the purport, where he says that. So you're saying displeasing, Prabhupada says cheating. They're kind of synonymous. Prabhupada says that it's okay to cheat somebody if it is for something that is transcendental. And he gives his own example that he displeased his wife, he displeased his sons when he took sannyas. So he calls it cheating, but he says that it is justified. So just to clarify that Samsadir Haritoshanam is actually the opposite of the premise that you're putting. Samsadir Haritoshanam is that
while executing your prescribed duties, you do it in a way that it pleases Krishna. So Prabhupada talks about the opposite part of it also, that if it is pleasing Krishna, then it is okay not to execute your prescribed duties. But that particular verse is talking about the opposite. From what I'm thinking, a question is that the recommendation is that as a grahastha, as a brahman or a kshatriya, whatever your duties are, you should execute them to perfection. And the nature of these duties are that they are varnashram dharma, which means that you execute your prescribed duties, and in doing so you please Krishna. And Prabhupada, of course, like I said, he wants to also preach. So the point that he makes is, and I think that's your question, that what happens if in doing so you're not able to please. So in another context, Srila Prabhupada addresses that. So here, of course, he gives almost like a carte blanche, saying that it is okay to do it. But in another purport, I forget the verse, where Prabhupada talks about the fact that if you're deviating from your prescribed duties with the understanding that you're doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, you should do that under the guidance of an expert devotee. Otherwise, people will whimsically give up the prescribed duties, thinking that is for the pleasure of Krishna. So it's a bit of a precarious situation, that a person marries, he has a wife and children, and then he says, I'm taking sannyas there, right? And unless the person is strongly anchored and also under the guidance of one who is strongly anchored himself, this would be Falgu Vairagya. The person thinks it's too troublesome to take care of wife and family, too troublesome to make money. So he says, Hari, 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 I'm going for sannyas. And then he goes to the jungle. So Prabhupada wants to make the point that if we are deviating from our prescribed duties, we should be careful about it, that it is done under expert guidance. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I answered.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll talk to you.
Okay, so we'll end over here. Thank you very much for being here. Vanchakalpatarubhayashchit kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nithai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari.